California's Gold is produced in association with KCET Los Angeles and is seen statewide on California Public Television. This series is endorsed by the California Teachers Association, the California School Boards Association, and the California Library Association. Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell, and here we are standing right in the middle of busy Beechwood Drive. In fact, I hope we don't get hit. There are cars coming in both directions, but we wanted to stand right here so we could get a straight-on shot of an honest-to-goodness LA landmark. Not only is it a landmark, it's an icon. It's the Holy of Holies. It's the Hollywood sign. And for those of you who know your LA history, you'll know that it didn't start off as the Hollywood sign. It started off reading Hollywoodland, which was the name of a development that was started here in 1923 by some wealthy investors who bought land in this area and decided that a great way to advertise the new subdivision was to put up a sign, and they called it Hollywoodland. And the land part of the sign, which was made out of wood, the whole sign was just some rickety wood letters that were only supposed to stay up there a couple of years. The land part stayed a part of the sign for a number of years. Then they took the land off and it became the world-famous Hollywood sign. Now, as interesting as the history is of the good old Hollywood sign, that's not what this adventure is all about. We have come to the Hollywood Hills in search of another sign that used to be on the side of the hill. A little known and very obscure part of LA history. And if you'll stick with us, I guarantee you're not going to be disappointed, and you're going to see something that none of us knew ever existed. This is going to be a real, honest-to-goodness Hollywood detective story. We have now come just a couple of miles from where we started this adventure down on Beechwood Drive. We're still in the Hollywood Hills, and we have hooked up with, introduce yourself to everybody, fellas.
Bob Eichholz.
Nice to meet you.
Steve Scott.
Nice to meet you. Now, make sure I got my facts right, because I know you all have been doing some research on this. Hollywoodland was started back in 1923 by some wealthy developers. One of them was Harry Chandler from the Los Angeles Times, and the idea was they thought it'd be great to build these homes up in the hills, right. And they advertised it by putting up a big sign called Hollywoodland,
right,
which basically was just there to advertise the new residential development. It didn't have any other purpose.
Exactly. In fact, something a lot of people don't know is there was a big white dot right under the Hollywoodland sign that flashed on and off as almost an exclamation.
Really?
And there's pictures of that as well.
Now, that lasted. It was just built of wood. It was kind of rickety. It really wasn't meant to last,
No.
And they certainly had no idea that it would become the Hollywood icon that it has become.
That's right.
That literally millions of tourists will be having their pictures made underneath it.
Exactly.
All right, now, from the Hollywoodland development, the story grows. Because you all sent me a letter which was just very intriguing. I had never heard this part of the story before. Hollywoodland was not the only residential development back in the 20s here, was it?
No.
There were actually several others, and this one is called Outpost Estates, the one that we're standing in right now. And it was built started a couple years after Hollywoodland.
Outpost Estates.
Yes.
And what was the idea behind Outpost Estates?
Well, a visionary in the community, C.E. Toberman, he was a real estate developer, and he had always wanted to create a spectacular residential community. And so his big idea was Outpost Estates, and he was going to make it unique in the fact that all of the utilities would be buried. It would be beautifully planted, lots of space left on the sides of the roads for maintaining the trees. In fact, most of the trees were maintained. It was very environmentally savvy before it was necessarily fashionable to be so.
Was it in competition with Hollywoodland, or was it just another development near Hollywoodland?
I'm sure they were all desperately in competition, and there was also Las Colinas Estates that was right down the street from us over here. So yes, you had this amazing economic exuberance in the 20s, and everyone was trying to appeal to that clientele that was wealthy and had money to spare on big homes.
Suddenly, everybody wanted to live in the Hollywood Hills, and I have seen your wonderful collection of photographs made back during the 20s and 30s of the homes here in Outpost that were built back then. They were beautiful, beautiful homes.
Yeah, it's the most unique. Well, Outpost Canyon is the, if you travel the canyons along the Santa Monica mountain range, Outpost Canyon has the most consistent Spanish Mediterranean homes built from the 20s. There's not a lot of hopscotching between new and old. Toberman was very specific about the types of houses that could be built here, and Lower Outpost is a reflection of that. And the houses were so nicely made that everyone has just kept them up and hasn't torn them down, and so there's a lot of what was here originally, and you won't find this consistency in architecture in the rest of the canyons.
So we are standing right now looking out over this area where all of these houses were built, and many of these houses are still here today.
Correct. We actually found in part of our original the limitations on what you could build here, the standards and the codes. There's like 10 pages of you have to have a red tile roof, you have to have plaster, you have to build with a certain thickness of wood for earthquakes. And it's amazing because all of these homes have survived all of the major earthquakes, and none of them have been damaged.
So they were well built.
Exactly. They're built in a way that you can't build today. It's not cost effective.
And is there a very tight-knit and serious group of homeowners here in your homeowners association?
Absolutely. The Outpost Homeowners Association board is a most incredibly dedicated, reasonable, hardworking group of people, and visionary too. We've got plans in the works for beautifying the neighborhood even further. Mike Meyer, who's our president, is spearheading that, and what you're seeing now, we're going to build on that and make it even nicer.
And people know about Outpost because of the sign, the street, Outpost. What is it? Outpost Drive?
Outpost Drive.
Outpost
this
Drive.
Is Outpost Circle, and Outpost Drive goes straight down to Franklin. It's one of the major streets you're crossing in Franklin.
So Outpost is a known name. It's
Yes.
not an obscure name.
No, it's well established, and if you had been around in the mid to late 20s, it would have been in all of the papers, and you've been constantly aware of it, and in a number of ways.
And what was the development called? Outpost.
Outpost Estates.
Estates.
And then the slogan was Hillside Homes of Happiness.
Hillside Homes of Happiness.
Yes, and another tagline I think was something like, you live in the city, but you, well, how did that go? You live in the city.
It was as close as a downtown hotel, but like a mountain lodge.
Oh
Yes.
gosh, that was a good one.
It was, and it's true. From here, we can walk to downtown Hollywood, to the subway. It's a wonderful place to live because it's quiet, and yet it's close to everything.
Right next to all of the things we love about Hollywood, and right next to the old Bernheimer estate, which is now Yamashiro's, and we just don't find this combination of beauty and peace and lushness and convenience. Our goal on a weekend is to never get in the car, and we accomplish that on a regular basis.
Now, did Stars live here from the very beginning?
They did and do. In fact,
They did and do. Okay, who are the dids and who are the do's?
the dead dids are actually, the dids are probably the most famous at the inception of this project was Dolores Del Rio, and she lived over at the corner of Outpost and Hillside down here. Beautiful Spanish Mediterranean.
And who are the do's? Who still lives here in Outpost?
Many. Ben Stiller, Bob Barker, Penny Marshall, Jason Priestley just moved here, and on and on. Charlize Theron.
David Lynch,
Oh,
Billy
wow.
Idol.
So this is a very prestigious neighborhood.
Yeah, and a lot of that's recent. A lot of people are moving back into this neighborhood, finding these old houses and restoring them. This house was just a disaster when we moved in. And we spent about 1.5 years restoring it, and now it's kind of the way it was, hopefully, when it was built.
Yes.
Wow, this is very exciting, but as exciting as this is, this bit of information, We've just started this detective work. You know what we're looking for, don't you? Don't give it
sure
away.
do.
But you know what it is we're looking for.
It's something that we were so excited about it when we discovered it. We really, just didn't even know what to do, and so we called you.
And,
We knew the right thing to do.
and how obscure is this thing that you all found and that you're going to take all of us to right now?
Well, let's just keep it between us.
It's very obscure, isn't it?
It's extremely obscure, but it shouldn't be.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful, forgotten, covered up piece of Hollywood history.
That's correct.
Yes,
That's
it's a bit of our archaeology, our history, our heritage. People tend to think that Hollywood doesn't have much of that, but we're here to prove them wrong.
All right, we're setting this up great. I love these kind of adventures. We'll give one more hint. And I'm not really dressed for it. I forgot we were going to take a hike today, but that's okay. We're in Hollywood. Where we're going to go is right up here. And what are we looking at, fellas? This is one of our parks.
Yes, this is Runyon Canyon Park. It's actually famous for people who are able to walk their dogs there, and so it's an extensive park. It used to be Pat McCormick's private residence. He was a famous Irish tenor at the turn of the century, and he had an amazing estate there, and the ruins of which are still there.
So what we're going to do, we're going to leave your beautiful home down here on Outpost Circle and hike up into Runyon Canyon to find this obscure piece of Hollywood history.
Yes, and we'll be much more winded by the end of this.
How long is it going to take us to get there?
Probably
It's about 20 minutes,
yeah.
and we're going to go off the beaten path. This is not somewhere where if you just went into the middle of the park that you'd discover it. You really have to know where you're going.
Okay,
So
but
we'll
basically
leave.
you're taking us, we're all going to go, get ready for this hike. We're going to go right up the side of the hill there to the top of this hill in Hollywood Hills in Runyon Canyon Park.
Right.
We're off. We have left your house, and a beautiful house it is, and just getting to our final destination takes us through some of these homes you were talking about, including this one.
This one was also built in the early 20s, and it was actually on the front page of the Hollywood newspaper at the time, and also in the Architectural Digest. The early version of the Architectural Digest did a story on this house.
So when it was built in the early 20s, it was already a classic house.
Sure, this neighborhood was known for kind of raising the architectural standards of that era, and this house, all of these houses were examples of that.
Now, right down here next door, they're working on a house.
Yes, well, all of these houses, they just finished with this one, but everyone is finally realizing what gems these are, and they're putting lots of money and lots of love into refurbishing them and bringing them up to their old glory.
Now, was this a famous house at the time?
Actually, it was famous from the very beginning. It had a notable resident. I can't remember the name right now, but the one I knew about was Alan Hale Sr. bought the house, and of course he's the father of Alan Hale Jr., who was a skipper on Gilligan's Island, which I saw a million times growing up.
Oh my God!
And the other thing that's interesting about all these houses, they all have amazing water features, waterfalls, streams that were all built when they were originally built. And
look how they built to get the afternoon sun. This is just, I hope the camera picks this up. This is a beautiful, and these are big houses too, nestled up here in the hill.
yes.
Most of them are about 5,000 square feet.
Really? Now, we're on Outpost Circle, which you said really gives us a real good idea. This is kind of the core of the old neighborhood.
Yes, it was the original parcel that C.E. Toberman developed, and he had a hard time actually. Jesse Lasky, who owned Universal Studios, had the piece of property at the head. He had sold him that property and then had to rebuy it back so he could get access to his development.
Look at this. I just stopped to take a look at this. What a nice little house.
Oh, and it's a gem inside. In fact, these were kind of, this house and the one across the street were kind of bookends. This has a fountain. The other house has exactly the same fountain. And the other house across the street had probably our most famous resident when it was built, which was Dolores Del Rio.
Now, is this an original house here?
Yes, it is. In fact, all the houses on Lower Outpost are all original.
Hey, where's Bob Barker's house? I know
this is Bob Barker's house right here.
Does he care whether people know that or not? Is it on the tour maps?
People know because this house has been declared a historical landmark, so it's always going to be there. It's always going to look the same. This house that we're passing right now on the right was the one that you see in a lot of the original ads. This was Dolores Del Rio's house.
Well, yes, you can hardly even see it behind the wall.
Yes, and the walls are a fairly recent addition by Ken Kercheval, who was of Dallas fame. And he built the garage, but it actually retains a great deal of its original charm.
But look, you can see the house back behind the wall.
And it's beautiful.
This wonderful
beautiful
tree here. Boy, what a beautiful shot.
Those are
here.
the original trees that were planted in the neighborhood are all the same. They're all carob trees.
And this is original, obviously?
Yes, this whole street right here is original. These are all 1920s. This is called El Cerrito Place.
And there's the side of Runyon Canyon Park. That's where we're heading, right there. And we're getting there by walking down these amazing streets lined with these historic homes from back in the 1920s. Great way to get there, fellas.
Oh, it's like a museum on the way.
Okay, we are inside Runyon Canyon Park. It's kind of quiet right now, but you say it's not always this way.
Oh, on the weekends it's just tons of people with their dogs and without dogs, and quite the social scene, actually.
Is this a dog park?
Well, it's a park that accommodates dogs. We all live together happily. As long as they clean up after themselves and keep their dogs on the leashes where they need to. So.
All right, now we're standing here right in front of these steps, and these are historic steps.
Yes, actually, this is the entryway to Pat McCormick's house, and he built this in the turn of the century, and he was a famous Irish tenor, and this was his estate called San Patrizio, and all through here are ruins, pools, fireplaces, little garden sheds that still remain from the original San Patrizio.
Ruins of the house. Look, you can kind of see them kind of scattered around through this area. The average person, if I was hiking up here, I wouldn't know what any of this was.
That's right. In fact, there's so many things like that that you go. That's what inspired us to do a little investigation. Is we'd see things and wonder what they were and find out. And
there's a dog. There's our first dog we've spotted, sniffing around the historic ruins here. Oh, of Pat McCormick's house. Well, this is reality television right here. Come on, fellas, let's go on down here. And we just got a great shot of your dog over there.
Some people's kids, I'm sorry.
And we're walking where? How much further do we have to go?
We have about maybe 10 minutes.
Now, is this where we're going up here?
Going up this way, actually.
Oh, so we're not going up here?
No, that's another hill past the one we were looking at earlier.
So the hill we're going on is
winding up through here.
Oh, okay.
Huell, it's hard to believe it, but right now we're walking in the geographic center of Los Angeles.
The geographic, is that proven?
Well, it's roughly the geographic center of Los Angeles.
Well, it's certainly quiet. You would never know you were anywhere near Los Angeles.
That's right, which is why this is such a beloved park, is because this is the only place that gives you a sense of what LA was before all the development and what these canyons were like.
Now, how did this become a city park?
Well, as I said before, it was originally owned by the opera singer who maintained the entire estate.
Pat McCormick.
Pat McCormick. And then the last owner in the 60s had a failed attempt to do a real estate development and decided he was just going to donate the whole parcel to the city of LA. And surprisingly, the city of LA declined the gift.
They didn't want this land as a park?
I guess they didn't want the obligation. And when our homeowners board got wind of it back in the 60s, they really lobbied very hard to have the city of LA purchase this lot. So it was revisited again. The city purchased it, and that's how Runyon Canyon Park came into being.
So it's been a park since the late 60s, early 70s?
Well, actually, just since about I would say 1995 was when they finally started making the entrances and all the infrastructure. It was kind of in limbo before then.
Boy, look at this right here. What a beautiful, beautiful. You all must just love this.
We do. Again, it's that lodge in the country and house in the city, or however you put it.
It's absolutely amazing that just 5 minutes from here you're on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
Noise and everything, and here we are. It's like being in the country.
No wonder the people who live around here love this place so much.
Yes, and fiercely protective of it.
Boy, this is an archaeological trip you're taking us on. There's something right up here over the hill.
Yeah, these are the original tennis courts from Pat McCormick's estate. And you can just imagine, we know that Errol Flynn has at least played a few games here. And he entertained many stars of the era. And so you can just see a little of it come to life.
This was a huge estate at one time. It filled this canyon.
The entire valley, yes.
Wow. Hi ladies. How you doing? Everybody's smiling up here.
They are. It's a very cheerful group. Well, the dogs make you smile, at least.
Now, where are we going now?
We're going right up there.
Way up there.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay, that's our destination, right up there. We're never going to get there because we have arrived at our first overlook, our first lookout, and this, look at this, Cameron. This is amazing over here.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and you can imagine what a retreat it was back in the beginning of this estate when there, from what I understand, there was a pool here and a little guest house, and I guess this is the very first infinity pool.
Wow, look at LA, downtown LA over here. I've never seen this view before.
Yeah, you can see all the way from Santa Monica, Century City, to downtown Los Angeles from this point.
Look at this view. Look at this, Cameron, all the way around. Looking out, you can see the sun reflecting off the ocean. This is spectacular.
It is, and also this is also one of the most amazing stands of original old Hollywood estates. These are grand estates down here.
Where? So right down in here
down
is
here.
Outpost.
Right. And Jesse Lasky, who started Universal Pictures, lived down at the corner here.
Samuel Goldwyn Mayer's house is right down here. Grand estate.
Ozzie and Harriet used to live right down here.
Boy, this is... Oh, we got the dogs up here too. What a place. Now I know why everybody comes up here.
Yeah.
Just for this view.
Exactly. And you've got the best of LA.
See the bird?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have these amazing hawks floating around here all the time.
What a place to stand and look at Hollywood history.
Yes.
This is just spectacular. Now where are we going? Are we going up here?
Up there.
Right, we're almost there. We're almost to the top. Okay, here we are. We're on top of the world with this wonderful view, looking out over the Los Angeles basin. And fellas, this is it. This is where we've come to do our detective work. And come on over here, Cameron. Let's take a close look. Look at this down here, this old rusty piece of metal right here. There's another piece of rusty metal right there. And if you go up the path, there's rusty metal all the way up there. And fellas, now it's time to give away exactly what this is all about.
This is a sign that was erected by the people who put in the Outpost neighborhood that you've just seen. And this was the largest neon sign in the world. It was a sign similar to the Hollywoodland sign, and it said Outpost for Outpost Estates. And it could be seen far and wide, all the way to downtown Los Angeles, all over Hollywood. It was a huge sign to advertise this neighborhood.
So it was as big as the Hollywood sign. Only it didn't say Hollywood, it said Outpost.
And it wasn't quite as big, but what it lacked in size, it made up for an innovation, which is, as he said, the world's largest neon sign ever built to that point in time. And it really was a beacon for Hollywood and the rest of Los Angeles at the time.
Now, did the developers build it because they wanted to compete with the Hollywoodland sign? That was the idea?
They did. They wanted everybody to know what Outpost was and to buy houses here.
And how long did it stand?
We believe it stood for about 5 years, but a lot of the history is lost, and we're just rediscovering the history. That's why this is so exciting.
So you would have to be an old-timer to even remember this sign. In fact, there are very few pictures of it perched. You found a couple, including one of Grauman's Chinese Theater, and right up over the edge of the theater, you can see the outline of the Outpost sign.
And we had looked at that picture a million times before then and didn't even notice it until we came up here and found all this, and then we started going through old pictures. And there it is. Every once in a while you'll see it in an old Hollywood picture.
But really, it's not very well documented.
No, in fact, you were saying old-timers. We couldn't find any old-timers that knew it existed. We saw it, we found out through pictures and saying, there it is. And a friend of us had told us, we thought we saw something that looked like, somebody told me it was part of a sign, and so we went up, and the stuff we've been walking by time and again, that tons of people walk by every day, hiding in plain sight, was this amazing Outpost sign. And we were shocked, and we were like little kids in a candy store when we discovered it. So
it's a piece of Hollywood history that's been lost for many years. And
right here on the side, look at this. Now this gives you a real idea of what's here. You can see this is the O coming right down all the way around here, and this is basically where the sign would have fallen years ago.
Right, this sign actually would have been probably 50 feet up in the air. It had a large base down there because the O had to be high enough to be seen from Hollywood Boulevard. So this letter is on the ground now, but it certainly wasn't before.
And you can see right there the junction box for the electrical. And some of the original wires are still there.
So unlike the Hollywood sign, this sign was lit up at night.
Well, actually, the Hollywood sign had light bulbs, and it was lit up too originally.
But this was neon.
Yes, neon.
And the other important difference is this one's metal, and that's why it's still here. The Hollywoodland sign was wood, and this is metal. This is solid metal.
Now, do you think it was taken down on purpose just to get it out of the way?
We're guessing that it was probably taken down on purpose, that people probably liked the look of the hillside as a hillside rather than having a sign on it, but that's just a guess.
And once the neighborhood was filled, there was no need to advertise the neighborhood anymore.
Right.
Yeah, and it might have also been a fire issue. They might have had to clear this area for access along the ridge. This is the ridge of a hill, so that might have been a reason why it came down. But it was built to last, so it's
still here.
And it's all still here.
How many people walk down this path every day? Hundreds, thousands of people a week.
Yeah, I think they all think it's old electrical lines or something. That's what we thought.
Look, it's everywhere. Now, what is this? So these are just parts of the bracing?
Yes, this is the bracing that actually held the actual letter up, and it went very, very high into the air.
Wait a minute, here's some more right here.
Yes, and unlike the Hollywood sign that's irregularly placed along the hill, this was in a straight line. It was a good lettering design.
O-U-T-P-O-S-T.
And look, this one, you can see, it just went boom. It just fell right over, and this is pretty well preserved as you cleared out some...
Look, here's another one. Look, you can just see the bottoms of the bracing just sticking up where they just fell right over.
In fact, this one still adhered to the foundation right there. It's just bent from the foundation. Wow. And these were shorter, of course, because they were higher up, so you didn't need as much bracing on the bottom.
Look at this. It just goes all... Now, here's a letter.
Yes, this is
That's
S. This is the S.
This is an S down here. This is absolutely amazing. All of this metal here that was once part of a huge metal sign lit at night by neon that said Outpost. We said this was going to be obscure and wonderful and a real part of LA history, And that's exactly what it is.
Right, and it's got its sister right over there on the other hill over there. There's the Hollywood sign. So
Yeah, let's end with that. See, the Hollywood sign gets all the publicity. There it is right across the way there. But we're here to remind everybody that at one time, years back in the 1920s, there was another sign on the Hollywood Hills, a sign that read Outpost. And even though it's not easily read today, it's still here, rusting on the side of this wonderful old mountain here right in the middle of Hollywood. Thanks a lot, fellas. This has been an absolutely wonderful Hollywood, LA detective adventure. We found the Outpost sign.